We begin our story in the mighty Persian Empire, ruled by the powerful King Ahasuerus. His kingdom was vast, stretching from India all the way to Ethiopia. The king hosted a magnificent 6-month-long festival to display his incredible wealth and glory. It was a time of feasting and celebration for all his officials. At the end of this grand display, he held a special 7-day banquet. This feast was for every single person living in the citadel of Susa. During this feast, the king commanded his wife, Queen Vashti, to appear. He wanted to show off her stunning beauty to all of his guests. But Queen Vashti refused the king's command. Her public defiance embarrassed and enraged the king in front of all his important leaders and nobles. The king consulted his wise men, asking what should be done. They advised him that Vashti's act of disobedience could inspire all women to disrespect their husbands. So the king issued a decree. Vashti was to be deposed and would never again come before him. Her royal position would be given to another. A search then began for a new queen. Beautiful young virgins from every province were brought to the palace, to the king's harem in Susa. In that same city lived a Jewish man named Mordecai. He was from the tribe of Benjamin, a descendant of those exiled from Jerusalem. Mordecai had a young cousin named Hadassah, whom he had raised as his own daughter. She was also known by her Persian name, Esther. Esther was lovely in form and features. When the call went out for young women, she was taken to the king's palace with many others. She was placed under the care of Haggai, the eunuch in charge of the harem. Mordecai had given her a very important instruction before she left. He told her not to reveal her Jewish heritage or her family background to anyone. Esther faithfully obeyed the man who had raised her. Esther immediately won the favor of Haggai. He provided her with beauty treatments, special food, and attendance ahead of the other women. Every day, Mordecai would walk back and forth near the courtyard of the harem. He was anxious to learn how Esther was doing and what was happening. After a full year of beauty preparations, it was Esther's turn. She was to go before King Ahasuerus in the royal palace. She took nothing with her except what Haggai suggested. Yet, she won the favor of everyone who saw her on her way to the king. When the king saw Esther, he was captivated. He loved her more than all the other women. His heart was truly set upon her. So he placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. A great banquet was held in Queen Esther's honor. All this time, Esther kept her identity a secret, just as Mordecai had told her. Her obedience and humility remained even in her new powerful position. A new figure now rises to power in the kingdom. His name was Haman, an Agagite, who was promoted by the king above all other princes. The king commanded that all the royal officials at the king's gate must kneel down. They were to pay honor to Haman, showing him great respect. All the officials obeyed this command from the king, all except for one man. Mordecai would not kneel or pay honor to the proud Haman. The royal officials asked Mordecai day after day why he disobeyed. He told them simply that he was a Jew, and his faith prevented him. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow, he was filled with furious rage. His pride was deeply wounded by this single act of defiance. But Haman thought it was beneath him to punish only Mordecai. He wanted to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the entire kingdom. Haman went to the king with a wicked and deceitful plan. He spoke of a certain group of people scattered throughout the land with different customs. He claimed their laws were different from all others. He slyly suggested that these people did not obey the king's laws, posing a threat. Haman offered a massive amount of silver to the king's treasury. He asked for a decree to be written that would completely annihilate this entire people. The king, trusting his advisor, gave Haman his signet ring. This gave Haman the authority to seal the decree with the king's own power. A date was chosen by casting the lot, which is called Pur. The 13th day of the 12th month was selected for the terrible destruction. The decree was written and sent by couriers to all the king's provinces. It commanded the people to destroy, kill, and annihilate all Jews. Young and old, women and children were all to be killed on a single day. Their property was also to be plundered by their enemies. When the decree was issued in Susa, the city was bewildered. While the king and Haman sat down to drink, the Jewish people were in panic. When Mordecai learned of this evil plan, he tore his clothes in anguish. He put on sackcloth and ashes, a sign of deep mourning. He went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. He came only as far as the king's gate, for no one in sackcloth could enter. Throughout every province, there was great mourning among the Jews. They responded with fasting, weeping, and wailing. It was a time of immense sorrow. Esther's maids and eunuchs told her about Mordecai's public grief. The queen was deeply distressed and sent clothes for him, but he would not accept them. Esther then sent a trusted attendant named Hathach. She instructed him to go to Mordecai and find out exactly what was troubling him so much. Hathach went to Mordecai in the city square. Mordecai told him everything that had happened, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree for the annihilation. He told Hathach to show it to Esther and explain the situation fully. He urged her to go into the king's presence. She must beg for mercy and plead with him for the very survival of her people. Hathach went back and reported all of Mordecai's words to Queen Esther. Her heart must have filled with a paralyzing fear at this request. She sent a message back to Mordecai, explaining the grave danger. There was a law that no one could approach the king without being summoned first. The penalty for breaking this law was death. The only exception was if the king extended his golden scepter, sparing that person's life. Esther added a personal, fearful note to her message. She told Mordecai, "And I myself have not been called to the king for 30 days." She felt forgotten and powerless. Approaching the king now would be an act of incredible, life-threatening risk. Her position seemed more fragile than ever. When Mordecai received Esther's reply, he did not offer sympathy. Instead, he sent back a message of powerful challenge and profound truth. He told her not to think that because she was in the palace, she alone would escape. Her royal status would not protect her from this decree. He warned her sternly, "For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place." But, he continued with a sobering thought, "You and your father's house will perish. Your silence will not lead to your own personal salvation." Then came the words that have echoed through history, the words that framed her entire existence with meaning and purpose, right in that very moment. Mordecai asked her to consider her unique position. He challenged her to see beyond her fear and to look at the bigger, divine picture. "And who knows," he asked, "but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" This was her moment. This question changed everything for Esther. It shifted her perspective from one of fear for her life to one of purpose for her people. She was not queen by accident. Her life, her beauty, and her position all led to this single, crucial point in history. This was her destiny. With newfound courage, Esther made her decision. She embraced her purpose, regardless of the personal cost. Her fear was replaced by brave resolve. She sent a final message back to Mordecai. "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day," she instructed. "I and my attendants will fast as you do." Then she declared her courageous resolution. "When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." For 3 days, a community prayed and fasted. Esther prepared her heart and spirit for the most dangerous moment of her entire life. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes. She stood in the inner court of the king's palace, directly in front of his hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne. He looked up and saw Queen Esther standing in the court, waiting, her life hanging in the balance. When he saw her, she won his favor. The king held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand. Her life was spared. Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. The king then asked her, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request?" He offered her immense generosity, showing his great favor. "Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given to you," he promised her. But Esther did not reveal her true purpose yet. Instead, with great wisdom, she made a simple request. "If it pleases the king," she said, "let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." This was the first step in her careful plan. The king agreed. Haman was quickly summoned, and they both went to the banquet Esther had prepared. Her strategy was now in motion. At the banquet, the king again asked Esther her petition. But once more she deferred, inviting them to a second banquet the next day. Haman left the banquet that day feeling joyful and with a proud heart. His ego was inflated by the special attention from the queen. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate, his mood soured instantly. Mordecai still refused to stand up or tremble before him. Haman went home and boasted to his friends and wife. He spoke of his wealth, his sons, and his promotion above all others. But he concluded, "Yet all this gives me no satisfaction, as long as I see that you, Mordecai, sitting at the king's gate." His wife and friends offered a wicked suggestion. They told him to have a gallows, 50 cubits high, built specifically for Mordecai. Then, in the morning, he could ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. This idea pleased Haman, and he had the gallows built immediately. That very night, a remarkable thing happened. The king could not sleep. So he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the records, to be read to him. It was read that Mordecai had exposed a plot. He had saved the king's life from 2 guards who had conspired to assassinate him. The king asked, "What honor or recognition has Mordecai received for this?" His attendants replied, "Nothing has been done for him at all." Just then, Haman entered the court. He had come early to ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai on the gallows he had built. Before Haman could speak, the king asked him a question. What should be done for the man the king delights to honor? A fateful question. Haman thought to himself, "Who is there that the king would rather honor than me?" So he described a lavish public ceremony of the highest honor. The king then commanded him, "Go at once. Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew." Haman was utterly humiliated. He had to lead his greatest enemy through the city streets, proclaiming, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor." Later that day, Haman went to Esther's second banquet. His heart was heavy with gloom, but he had no idea things were about to get worse. The king again asked Esther for her petition. "Now, Queen Esther, what is your request?" "It will be given to you," he declared once more. This time, Esther was ready. "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people," she continued. "This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed and annihilated." The king was shocked and furious. He demanded, "Who is he? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" Esther looked directly at her enemy, who was now trembling. She said, "An adversary and enemy, this vile Haman." The truth was finally revealed. The king got up in a rage and went out into the palace garden. Haman, realizing his life was forfeit, stayed behind to beg Queen Esther for his life. When the king returned, he saw Haman falling on the couch where Esther was. This further enraged the king, sealing Haman's terrible fate. One of the king's attendants then spoke up. "A gallows, 50 cubits high, stands by Haman's house. He had it made for Mordecai." The king gave a swift and final command. "Hang him on it." So they hanged Haman on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The original decree, however, could not be revoked. So the king empowered Esther and Mordecai to write a new one in his name. This new decree gave the Jews the right to assemble and protect themselves. They could fight back against any who might try to attack them. On the appointed day, the Jews defended themselves successfully. Their enemies were defeated, and a great reversal of fortune had taken place. Instead of a day of sorrow, it became a day of joy, a time of feasting and celebration for the miraculous deliverance of an entire people. This event established the festival of Purim. It serves as a lasting memorial of how sorrow was turned into gladness and mourning into a holiday. Esther's courage shows us that one person can make a difference. She answered the call to act, for she was placed in her position for such a time as this.